I need to fix the front flat tires on my 8163B tractor. The rims are pretty crappy, but the tires got all dry rotted and cracked, and like I can't even use them. The tubes are popping out of the cracks. I want to fix it before winter. So I decided that the rims are too rusty. So I want to fix up the rims before we put new tires on it, because there's nothing worse than putting new tires on rusty, crappy rims, right? So let's do some electrolysis. Well, jacked up the 8163B here. I'm gonna pop off these front tires and wheels. They're all dry rotted and cracked. The whole sidewall is split out of this one here. And we're gonna electrolysis the rims, repaint it, and put some new front tires and tubes on it. I got my dust tub remover tool here. Let's see if we can figure this thing out. This thing usually works pretty good. Of course, I jacked up the tractor so the wheel is not stationary, I guess you'd say. That's not helping. I might have to jack the tractor back down. Well, we're going to do some electrolysis on these rims here from 8163B. I got some steel wire here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grind down a little bit of this rim next to the valve stem area here so it's shiny on both of them. And then I'm going to take this wire and put a bolt in here with a washer and wrap that wire around it and connect them both together. And then take the wire and run it out of my pail, and that's going to be my lead. And then I'm going to use brake rotors also. Check it out. So we're going to do some electrolysis on these wheels. I bought this big plastic container at the flea market for $3 or $4 off a guy 2 weeks ago. It's going to be a great electrolysis tank. I got 2 brake rotors, 2 rims. We'll wire all this junk together and fill it up with our magic solution, and we'll see what we can do. All right, so I got my rim here. I'm going to take my wire wheel here around the valve stem hole. I'm going to just grind this with the wire wheel and get it smooth and shiny, which will give me a nice place to attach my wires to. So I'll just come right in here. I'm doing this one-handed, so hopefully it works. Good enough. Now I still got bearings in some of these wheels, so I'm actually going to take a punch and just get the bearings out and try to keep them out of this electrolysis process. Over the last couple of years, I've inherited some tools, and one came from my grandfather, who was a carpenter, and he had a bunch of stuff, but I got a big box of drill bits that was his. And the other came from my wife's grandfather, who had a little woodworking shop in his garage. So I got a drill press that came from him. I brought it home here about a month ago, and I've never even plugged it in and tried it. Hopefully it works. So I'm going to take a drill bit from my grandfather and the drill press from her grandfather, and we're going to try to drill a hole in the brake rotor so we can put a bolt through it to secure the wire to it. Let's check it out. Now here's a random box full of the drill bits. I've had that a couple of years, probably 3 or 4 years. And let's go investigate this drill press. All right, here's the drill press. It's a KFF. I think it's a, Chinese drill press or something. Whatever. It was free. And it beats my old Harbor Freight drill press that I've had for years. So I'm going to put a smaller drill bit in it, and let's see if we can fire it up. All right, my goal here is to drill a 1/4-inch hole up near the edge of this brake rotor. And what I want to do is have it so that I can just put like a 1/4-inch bolt through it and wrap a wire around it and thread it on. So let's see what happens. I plugged it in. Let's see if it turns on. Ooh, it turns on. Cool. Awesome. I should have my tripod out, but I don't. Let's see. Probably the RPM is a little quick here. All right, let's see how this drills. Yeah, it goes pretty easy. I thought it would be a lot harder to drill this than it is. I guess it's probably cast iron or something. I didn't know if the brake rotors would be like hot from all the stopping, if they'd be almost like they're tempered. There's a hollow spot in the middle of the rotor. I just went through that. Now we're in the bottom half. Cool. All right, worked out good. Nice. All right, let's crank it down. I just put a 1/4-inch bit in there, which is probably too big to go from like 1/8 inch right up to 1/4. Let's see, we got enough stroke. Yep, we got enough stroke to go through. Now, I don't really know how to change the speed. There's a belt on the top that definitely does it, but this is gonna be too fast and I don't feel like figuring out all the belts right now. We just got drilled 2 holes. Let's see. That worked. Cool. There's one. We'll get the other one. There's number 2. Cool. Nice. All right, so here's the question. Did my grandfather have awesome drill bits? He was a woodworker, not a metal worker. Maybe they never drilled metal before and they're pretty sharp. Or did my wife's grandfather have an awesome drill press that drills through metal really nice? Maybe it's both. Anyways, that went good. Next up is we're gonna wire wheel the rotors around where I drilled the holes, so we have a nice fresh spot for the wire to touch the rotor with. All right, let's see. Here's rotor number 1. That was easy. Rotor number 2. That was easy. All right, let's go lay this out. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take a piece of wire and I'm gonna strip one end of it. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the bolt through here. I'm gonna wrap this wire around it. Okay. Then I'm gonna put a washer over it. I'm gonna put a nut over it and we're gonna tighten it down. Okay, then I'm going to take the other end of my wire and do the same thing to the other side. Make this one a little longer than that. Let's see. Okay, a washer on there. Get this nut going. I'll tighten it down with a wrench, just so it's nice and tight. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the wire over here in the middle, and we'll attach that to the battery charger. Now the rims are going to go inside of here like this. Let me find those holes where I put the valve stem holes. There we go. They're going to go in there. And I got this wire, just some galvanized steel wire at Home Depot. And I'm going to use this. There's no jacket on it. And I'm going to put a bolt in each one of the valve stem holes and wire this on there. And this will be our negative. All right, so the wiring is all set here. I got my grounds connected to the both wheels coming out the side and the back, and I got my rotors, which are what's called sacrificial anodes, and now I have to fill it with water until the rims are submerged. So I need to know how many gallons it takes. So I have like an old 1 gallon milk jug or something. I'll just fill that up and keep pouring it in there and count how much it is. And then, you know, what happens is that a chemical reaction occurs, and the iron ions, or whatever you want to call it, the FeO2 from chemistry class, will come from the wheels and go across through the solution to the sacrificial anode, like that brake rotor is a magnet to the rust, and it will all come right off. It works in a line of sight, so since I got 2 rotors going at once, it should be twice as efficient as it otherwise would have been. So let me get some water and we'll fill it up. This is the 10th gallon. That's gonna get me right where I need to be. So let's keep pouring this in, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, good. So we got 10 gallons in there. Now let's get our special sauce. Now, the other thing I wanted to say is that the reason I got this heavy-duty container is because I was using a Rubbermaid that was rectangular, and when you fill it up with water, it's a lot of weight in there, and the cheap sides on the Rubbermaid would bow out and flex, and it ended up like collapsing on me one day. This food-grade container that I got, I think it holds 15 gallons. I put 10 in it with the milk jug. I'm pretty close to the top. But it's very sturdy and solid, and it's round. And I think being round, it more evenly distributes the weight of the water instead of being rectangular. All right, this is the special ingredient right here. Arm & Hammer Super Washing Soda. Now, I've had this box for a couple years. It feels hard inside, like it got moisture in it. And I assume because it's sitting in my garage that it wicked moisture through it. But let me open it up and we'll see what it looks like. It basically looks like baking soda. I'm gonna just take a screwdriver here and smash it up a little bit. Be right back. Well, you're supposed to have 1 tablespoon per gallon. I got 10 gallons, so that's a quarter cup is 4 tablespoons. So I'm gonna use this quarter cup and fill it up 2.5 times. So let's do it. All right, let's see. My wife's not home, so I could sneak the measuring cup out of the kitchen. This is a junk one, but I'm just smashing it with my thumbs as I put it in to try to get rid of the chunks. And we'll just dump it in and let it dissolve into the water. And that's about it. Nothing crazy. We'll do that 1.5 more times. One of the keys to the electrolysis is that your battery charger has to be an old one that's not electronic. The old ones just go no matter what and send out power. The electronic ones need to sense that, I don't know if it's that there's a load or that the battery's taking a charge, but the newer electronic ones don't work. So every time I've used this, I've used the same charger to do electrolysis, and it always seems to pull about 3 amps. So, you know, it's all good. All right, so I got this old school battery charger here. It's like a 10 amp charger and it does 6 volts and 12 volts. I haven't used it for years, but my alligator clips on the end, I used to submerge them in the water and they would rot off. And I don't remember which one's positive and which one's negative. So I'm gonna plug it in and hook it up to my voltmeter here and figure out which one is which. I'm going to guess that the one that's half rotted off is the negative, because that's the one that would be in the water. So I'm actually going to take my meter and clip the negative onto that thing, like so. Oh, didn't want to stay. Positive on there. Just let it hang over here for a minute. It doesn't want to stay. There we go. Good enough. And I'll clip this negative over here. And let me plug it in. If I can find the plug. And let me turn the meter on to DC. There we go. Let's see what happens. Plug's all bent. I think it says negative 12 volts, so let me switch them around and we'll try it the other way. No, now it's negative. I was right the first time. So the one that's all rotted off is the negative, and the other one is the positive. All right, cool. So let me unplug it. All right, I just realized that I never stripped the end of this orange wire for the positive side. I'm going to just take this negative and just make kind of a big coil of wire here and just crimp it all together so that I got something solid for this alligator clip to go on to. That's it, nothing crazy. Just let that hang out of the way. Don't let it touch the other side, you're gonna have a problem. Let me get the clippers. Now what I did to the positive side is that I actually wrapped the wires around this bolt so that I have a better connection for the alligator clip to go to. Okay, so we're ready to plug it in and see what happens here. Let's see, I do a one-handed plug in. Let's see. Okay, it's plugged in. Now let's look at this meter. It's drawing power. It's drawing about 3 amps. That seems to be the norm. And I'm actually going to take my meter here, just for ha-has, and touch the positive onto the top of the brake rotor bolt, and touch the negative onto the ground here, and make sure we got 12 volts. Let's see. All right, a few safety tips. They say to do electrolysis outside because during the chemical reaction, it's supposed to potentially make hydrogen gas. So you don't want that to vent in your house. I'm sure that the amount of gas that's going to vent out of this thing is almost nothing, so I don't think I'd really be worried about it, but that's just what they say. There are some people that claim that you can put something in the water like lye, something that's a base, and it will help with cleaning off grease from the parts or even making the paint come off. What I found is that typically the rust is underneath the paint. And when you start doing this chemical reaction, the rust underneath the paint lifts out and the paint just seems to flake right off usually. So, you know, hopefully by tomorrow morning, this thing will look like rust soup. So it's only like 45 degrees out right now. It's supposed to get down to like 33 tonight and be frost. It doesn't matter what the air temperature is. As long as your water doesn't freeze in the tank, it should work. But we'll check in the morning. Now, I don't know if you can see the sparkling in the water, but it's already working. All those little bubbles you see popping are the actual reactions already starting to happen. So I know it's working before I even test my voltage here, but I should have 12 volts right here. I can't even see the meter, it's so dark out. Yeah, I got 10 and a half, so it's working. But you can see the bubbles happening already, so that's awesome. And there's actually like like a haze of stuff on the water that I can see moving towards the metal also. So if we come back tomorrow morning, we should have a rust soup over here, I'm going to call it. So that's it for now, I guess. Awesome. That is so cool, man. Electrolysis for the win, baby.